It is great to see you. I am trying to get ready to join your chat channel. Meanwhile, why don't you invite your friends, relatives and families? Don't hesitate to share the information at your social media channels and also send SMS message via WhatsApp, Telegram, Signal. I am looking forward to watch with you and chat with you. See you soon. Hello everybody. This week my guest is Roxane Jurkovskaia. Thank you, Roxane, for joining.
Thank you, Serdar, for inviting.
She is an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, and a recent mother. As far as I know, you work in high tech. I really want to hear about your high tech background, and later on, I just want to hear about your experience as a mother who was a serial entrepreneur.
Sure. So just so you know, like before I started my entrepreneurial career, I spent several years working with the UN, where I worked with social startups. And doing that made me realize that I really wanted to build something of my own. And also it made me realize the power of technology in making a positive impact or making a change. Because many of the startups I saw, they were brilliant. They were trying to really do something good. However, the technical component was often lacking in the setup, and it could make a massive difference. And that's why I kind of started this path of my own of trying to build something myself. I ended up working with, specifically, we work with computer vision and natural language processing, as often is being referred to as NLP, and we work within sports. We also work within cybersecurity. Most of the projects were in sports though. And there we work specifically within football, professional football.
But what do you do in football? Is it like...
So we're actually trying to, let's say, make talent more quantifiable within football and remove the aspect of luck and subjectivity when searching for new players. So we were analyzing football performance through an application directly on the phone, and kind of making, so let's say we had a scoring system, and we looked at several factors to how to evaluate a player, enabling actually someone to, be unseen and become seen within the football world, focusing specifically on developing markets. So we were in China, we were in Africa, Brazil. Those were the places we were looking for, because the reality is that kids nowadays, the chances are higher than they have a smartphone than actually shoes. So that was what we did for several years. And then I became pregnant. And that changed my life dramatically. Yes.
Yes, this was the blog post, like at LinkedIn that I read. I wasn't expecting to read something like this at LinkedIn, to be honest. Like, I was really surprised to read these experiences. That's why I was intrigued to ask, because you were mentioning very important things. The way that the society is built when you are pregnant, what is expected from females right now. I really want to hear from you.
I think, just so you know, before I became pregnant, I was a full-on, let's say, career woman. The expectations I had of myself was either I'm in a startup, or I'm in McKinsey, or I'm an investment bank. Like it has to be one of those paths. And obviously I could have it all. You could have a child, you could go back and have a beautiful career, just like Sheryl Sandberg in the book, you have it all.
Yes.
And
you had it already.
I had a lot of the things indeed. And when I gave birth to my daughter, and I had her, and I kind of slowed my pace down. First of all, I realized that it was harder to be a mom. Before I would sit and work until midnight. Our working hours would be 70, 80 hours per week. But I thought it was tough. it's not tough at all. You know, being a mother is much tougher,
Is it
and
much harder work?
it's much harder work.
What
And
is her name, by the way?
my daughter's name is Aurora. So
Aurora, very
Aurora.
nice name.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations again.
Thanks. But so I realized it's a lot of hard work, and I also realized, so I think you know, there's that illusion of what it is to become a parent, to become a mother, and then you have that realization that there's so much we're not prepared to and we do not discuss in society. You know, I thought, oh, you give birth, you move on. But I gave birth. My birth was exceptionally complicated. It was like an emergency cesarean, and my body was human, so it took time to heal. Things that you don't really even think are happening. You don't get the behind the scenes. And then in Denmark, it's very common that actually Denmark, interestingly enough, is the country that has the highest amount of children in daycare and nursing, the lowest age. All kids are more.
Isn't it nice that there's a daycare?
Well, that depends. It depends.
Up.
I think if you have a mother who's an entrepreneur and a problem solver with a high, you know, approach towards quality and focus on attention and detail, then probably it's not such a good thing. Because I was very surprised to find that so when Aurora was around 10 months, she was supposed to start a nursery, you know, kindergarten nursing place. And I had a really hard struggle, you know, with finding something that actually made sense for where I would like to send my daughter, because the environment I come from is an environment, you know, where we talk about the singularity. We travel to San Francisco for conferences to discuss the, you know, the new approaches within medicine and education, and, you know, travel the world. So I was pretty shocked to kind of go from my world of anything is possible towards the reality of having a family and seeing where, you know, the baseline was. And I realized that it's
world of wonders,
was pretty low.
Reality.
Exactly. So it was like dreaming, you know, flying, frequent traveling, seeing, you know, some really exciting things towards seeing that kids were, you know, left abandoned and pretty not treated according to some of the newest research that I at least had, you know, knew that was out there.
What do they say in this research?
Well, if you the research varies, of course, but it depends on the focus we take. But, you know, when you go from a place where we talk about, you know, abundance and love and that the care that you have to give, and then you go to a place and you see that, first of all, the food was of horrible quality. You know, I come from a place where we're vegetarians, vegans, but generally food has to be of high quality, care a lot about our bodies. Then you go to a place where they just only serve meat and pasta every day, and you're, you know, I asked them, it was funny because I asked them, so what if you're vegetarian? And then they looked at me in a really weird way. And just to say, this was in a fancy neighborhood in Copenhagen. They looked at me in a weird way and said, we don't have that thing. You can if you're a Muslim. I've never heard of vegans. And that
they haven't heard of vegans?
No, they hadn't heard vegetarian even. So I didn't go the vegan path because vegetarian was a big step in itself. But that really shocked me. And, you know, and you have, you know, the different, you have the element of how important it is to have nature to be part of your life. Or let's say we talk a lot about in our daily debates, you know, also on television, we talk about climate change. And it was very shocking to see that many of the places where we went and visited to see whether we could send our daughter there. I'm mentioning climate change because I saw the different level. Because there was, you know, one place where I asked them, so what do you do like with your kid? You know, how do you decide the topics? And they're like, we just have a meeting with coffee and then the topic of the week is red. And you're like, okay. And then I went to another place and you could just see the level of difference where I asked them, so what do you do? And then the lady said, well, this week we're focusing on environmentalism and nature. So we are, you know, going into the nature, finding things in nature that we build something out of. So children will become more aware of the role that nature plays in their lives. And that is that is a massive gap of quality. And
Mhm.
which shouldn't, hypothetically speaking, living also in Denmark, where we do pay a lot for in taxes, as an example,
Yes.
that difference should not exist on such a high level, because that was very
But
so
you
that
are
was a
talking
bit
about
disturbing.
these two places were in Denmark, but they had totally different type of experience for the kids.
Exactly. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
you didn't
So
have,
that,
we had a perception that wherever you go, you could have the same quality of education, but it is not the case even in Denmark.
of course, yes, especially because I did come from this, as you said yourself, a little bit of a bubble world. So it was a shock to see that that was the actual reality, like a
I didn't
difference
say
in
bubble world, I said wonder world, but you can
Wonder
name it as
World.
you want.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Um, so basically we decided not to send her to any of the places we visited. I didn't see, I personally really didn't see the value that it would give for her, but also for me, because I think it's just because I spent so much time, working very, very hard, and it felt very difficult for me to justify that those first years, um, I should, yeah, like give her away to strangers to actually look after her. It just didn't make any sense. For me internally, even though society wise, the pressure was, of course, that I should give her up. And usually the comments that I would receive would be, are you crazy? That is boring. How can you do something like that?
Yeah,
What
isn't
about,
it boring? Isn't it
um,
like you are stay at home mom right now?
I'm a stay-at-home mom. I mean, so no, absolutely not. I mean, it's not for me. And I think that's the beauty. So I'm a kid myself, so that's just something people should know. I love to play, I love to explore things.
Can I add something here? Because the way that I
Mm,
know you so many years, even though we haven't met
mm,
last couple of years, I remember your energy when we were at least when I was at younger age, and then I followed your career when I invited you some other sessions, the energy, the passion, the activity that you were having known that, but also listening you right now, you surprised me, to be honest.
really? Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah,
surprised a
like
lot of people by staying at home. You're not the
yes,
only one. um yeah, I think
not negatively. It is like I am
no,
nobody to
but
judge. It is positively. I am surprised. Like I, if you had said,
yeah.
"Oh, I sent my kid as soon as she was able to do, I provided all the things for her. I am still meeting her after her lectures, but I am running my own business." It sounded more natural, but in reality,
Mm.
maybe it is not. You are telling me that.
I think I even surprised my partner, and I think I surprised everyone around me, because most people were expecting that I would go straight back to work and even leave her with the dad and just continue my thing.
Living with the dad,
Um,
yes, this is you would expect. I would expect.
yeah. But I think motherhood made me probably more humble, much more also reflective upon values, upon society, upon what is it that we're doing. Because I mean, so first, just on the boring part, when you said, stay-at-home mom, you need to probably, I think that the name probably has a pretty old-fashioned sounding cling to it, because, being a stay-at-home mom, for me at least, means, we have activities every day. I don't do dishes and, clean the kitchen, and like, it's not that old, the version we have sometimes in our minds.
Yeah.
I'm a pretty bad housewife from that perspective, meaning that I'm not, I
I
do my
didn't
best, of
say
course,
I didn't say
but
housewife.
but
Just to
you
defend
thought about
myself.
it, probably. You thought about it,
Yeah, oh,
but we
I'm
do,
inclusive.
so we have lots of stuff that we do all the time, and especially, like, I think Aurora has, like, she has dance classes, she has gymnastics, we go to art stuff, and because I love to kind of get under the skin of what I'm doing, so we have like a community of moms where we discuss what is conscious parenting, how can you something that I think was very interesting was, how do you actually build a healthy family? Because having built a startup and knowing some of the mistakes that were done, and knowing also that a startup or an organization in the end is just it's a social, it's a group of people. So it's a human, we see a lot of human behavior in companies. And I thought it was exceptionally interesting that we are so little prepared to actually build a family, many of us, at least from my perspective. I never studied how do you have a healthy relationship. I studied maybe HR, had a class in, biz school, but I never actually, thought about what, how do we unconsciously or consciously pass on beliefs or values that we took for granted, or realities or truths that we tell ourselves because somebody else told us, and then pass them on. So I think what really triggered me was, how do you build actually, knowing the principles of building a company, how do you build an awesome family? Something that has at least some of the things that I valued was, that there's space for individuality, that you have a place where you can feel safe, things that we often discuss in companies as well. But how do you do that in a family setup? How do you empower your child, and or without passing on my own dreams to her, but letting her dream her dreams and just being able to support her to realize them. I realized that I probably didn't know how to do that. I never really looked into it. And how do you just have some healthy rituals, because this is something I often would do in my work life, but how do I have them in the family? So I started to really think in that direction. And I think that has probably been my focus. And that's why I'm so interested in this whole, how do you actually do that? How can you support each other in the best way so we can become great humans, or just the what we can become, that we can become that with the support of each other. So that's kind of my focus.
When you say that, actually it is also interesting. We know a lot how to team bonding in a corporation, or we talk a lot like fail fast and then restart your business. But actually nobody wants to fail in their relation with their kid, isn't it? You don't want to, it is because human relations is not like starting a business. Like if you fail your kid a couple of times, it will be very difficult to gain their trust, how we can build it up, how you can have a nice communication. And also this is the same thing with your partner. Let's say, okay, you're not housewife, of course, and then we have all these machines, men should do their job to do cleaning, their fair share, at least from home. But how we can, maybe, can we say that we became so much individualistic, but it went to too extreme that we don't have an option for some people? For example, I can tell you, experience of my friend when he took parental leave as a father with his third kid. And he said he started to realize there is a different way of life in Stockholm after, and he enjoyed his life the most when he took long parental life, because he didn't took at first 2 kids that long because he wanted to go back to work. Now he said it was the most enjoyable year of his life when he was carrying his kid, the third one. And he regretted a lot for the first 2 that he didn't spend that much time with them. So it is interesting to hear these type of stories, like, are we creating so much individual life so that we don't let any other people to have options in their life? Like, I don't totally understand, because when we box women to be a housewife, we are limiting their capacity. But can we create an environment that they are not housewives, stay at home mother by choice, but who can maybe have a flexible work life, but at the same time who can spend enough time around their kids as much as they want. So I think this is what you want to explore.
Because I think that this absolutely is the future. I mean, that should be the future, because, and as I mentioned it to you when we were discussing just earlier before we started the interview, but I found a really, really interesting study that showed, that out of, it was a study conducted in UK, and I think also some Nordic countries were included in it. where basically they found that 20% of all the women asked were women who wanted to go back to their career full time after giving birth.
20%, yes.
20%, 20% wanted to be stay-at-home moms and not go back to the career. And then you have
Totally.
60, totally, like at least for when the kids were small. So
Yes.
that was the focus when, you had that toddler age, 1, 2 years, 3 years,
Yes.
before kindergarten. And then 60% wanted to be engaged in in their professional life, working career, but also wanted to have the opportunity of having a work that allowed them to actually, spend some days with the kids if that was a necessity, or stay a little bit, be flexible in their working hours. And, what I found very interesting was that often, we mainly hear from those 20% that want the career full out, because they would often end up in positions that have the power to decide, either where the regulations are going, because those would be the women that would go full on in the career track, or speak up in news or other places. While of course the mothers that stay at home, I mean, they stay at home and usually are not always the ones that have so much access to these power networks that we usually would need for making such statements. But I just thought it was fascinating, because I had been one of those 20%, and I just assumed that because I want a career and I want to work all time, and I am not interested in the family life, then that assumption should be applied on everyone else, was applied on everyone else. And I always told myself, when I had, even in my startup, I mean, I was very, skeptical when I had mothers coming in, because for interviews, I'm just, being honest, because I would be like, oh, okay, so there's a kid, she needs to take care of the kid. Yeah, you cannot
Can
count on
she
them.
commit? Can she commit
Can
the
she
way
commit?
that?
All those, exactly. She can probably not commit. She has a family. All those really, really stereotypical, really outworn. And the reality is that it just reflected that my company was not a company of inclusive and supportive environment that actually allowed people to be different, and that actually could support different kinds of structures. And I think that was a realization that I had, because first of all, I assumed that they were, unable to perform. Being a mother now, I know that you can absolutely perform as a mother. You can
Outperform.
optimize.
If I recall
You
from
can
your blog post,
outperform.
because
Yeah,
the thing that you listed, what you
that's
have
true.
learned as a mother, it was like in a couple of months you were able to learn the thing that you will learn in a company in 10 years.
That depends on the individual, right? We're all
Yes.
different when it comes to learning. But yeah, but I was amazed, because I had to, first of all, my the procrastinating, that's a big issue for a lot of people, me including. And that just went away. So there's no procrastination, because
Much
I was
more
always,
productive,
there was a
effective,
lot of
productive.
productivity. Exactly. And there was not a lot of, I was really focused on one single task, because when I became a mother for Aurora, I still worked. It was only after that I realized that I actually officially stepped out of the company in February 2020. So that was,
Ah,
it was kind of a
recent.
long, and that was a year after, right? I gave birth. So it was, um, I just realized a lot of things. You didn't have to multitask. I would be single focused on achieving one task, and I would have like this, task list of things. Either you have to have board meeting minutes written down, or you had to have a meeting with somebody. So I would be exceptionally focused on output. I would not be interested in, small talking or going into another direction, because I would know that my daughter would wake up within half an hour maximum. So I needed to get everything done on that list, and I found that extraordinary, how you can switch in terms of thinking and in terms of productivity as well. So yeah, that changed my perspective. And what I mentioned with the jobs in the future, I think now where we have, I mean, COVID actually forced a lot of companies to adapt more innovative measures, let's put it like that, to actually it force them to use Zoom. If they never used it, they used it now.
Yes.
They used, Skype or whatever.
COVID became the number one transformation effect in the whole
Exactly,
industry, like
exactly,
digital
exactly.
transformation.
And I think it's incredible, because it also allows space for, suddenly companies sadly it still exists. We have a pretty bureaucratic systems out there. We have jobs that people just
Yeah.
sit in front of the computer not doing anything. But here, companies that said before it was impossible to be remote were remote. Workers were sitting from home, and some of them, do when your kids at home and you also have your job, you start being, present in different places. You start to maybe prioritize differently. So you have a meeting there, and then the other time you spend on your child. So I think a lot of companies have probably realized that it works being differently. And I hope that the future actually allows us to have more. I don't know if it should be remote work. That's still a question for how it's going to work, but definitely allows more flexibility, because
Definitely.
with things becoming more digitalized, I mean, you have bots doing a lot of stuff. I mean, now, of course, we're talking about a specific part of society that has access to this type of
Yeah,
living, but
that had luxury, like we have that type of luxury. But refer to
exactly,
what you
exactly.
said, I start to see when I was doing training or meeting, even though I thought, okay, digitalization made us too much robotic, but I started to realize during this COVID-19 times, I started to see it became more humane because I was able to see these all serious people now, like you see, Roxana, are you back?
Oh,
Okay,
I'm here.
good.
Yeah.
Good. So we see this all serious people right now, the guys especially. Now you see the little toddler just runs behind the scenes or just blocks the father. I start to like it because I start to see life is not only work, it is not only articles or the product launch. You have kids around, you have other things that you have to take
Hmm.
care of. Like I start to like to see people like this because we created an illusion that okay, all the time we work, we never mention about like kids are only like chit chat. Oh, do you have a kid? I have a kid, or I don't have a kid, or just oh,
Yeah.
what are you going to do on weekends? So we never thought it is part of the life, but in reality, it is being part of our life. Why do we hide it? Why do we act in a way that we don't have? By talking about family and having your experience with the kid, even though it is not directly, but subtle message comes as a weakness. No, we are
Hmm.
what we are right now. Like if you don't want to have a kid or if you want to send your kid to the kindergarten, send it. But what if, for example, if I have a baby, I really want to be around my baby, to be honest, as much as I
Hmm.
can. So COVID-19 is a nice opportunity that I can have my meeting and then 10 minutes after the meeting, I can go back, play with my kid until the next meeting. It doesn't mean that I will work less. Maybe I work in different, more flexible hours, but I really don't want to be far from it. It is nice to be around the kid, you know. But this is
Yeah.
my preference. But I don't know if it is,
And
am I declaring my weakness?
I think, but I think the whole point, I mean, there's no point in digitalization or in having, advanced technology if it removes us from, further away from being human, what it means to be human, what it means to have empathy, what it means to take care of each other. And I think that's, and sadly, that's sometimes something that happens, where we confuse that with it. But the point of, let's say, having automation and having digitalization is if, that we should have more time to do things that we're good at doing, and we're good
Yes.
at having that heart to heart contact, right? We're good at being mindful. um that's at least what I think is the point of it, but of course everybody has different perspectives. But I think it's incredible if, if we have a more efficient system that can take care of all the stuff that takes our time away, if it's making your bills work or whatever, if it's just sitting and filling out stupid forms over and over again, and instead you can spend that time with your family. I think that's way more, worthy than anything else in the world, because I think being present is something that is essential for us to thrive, to be present with the people around us. And obviously being present start with being present with yourself, but your family and colleagues, and then it goes further, right? So yeah. COVID
Thank,
definitely opened up that chapter.
thank you very much. Also, I want to hear about your this final project. You are a serial entrepreneur. Maybe you are not as active as you were before, but you can. It is entrepreneurship is in your blood, as far as I know you, as far as I recognize you. And now you have a new project, Little Human. Can you please talk about that a little bit before you go?
Yeah, so I wouldn't define it as a, it's not like my tech startup where that was a very, specific direction, but
I mean, social
Real
entrepreneurship.
Humans, yeah, well, it's like it's an idea. So what I missed as a parent was a place where you could share and um grow, develop yourself as a parent, but learn more because I realized that we come from, I was raised by how my mother was raised. My mother was raised by by my grandmother. My
Yes.
grandmother was raised by her mother, which, it's incredible, but we take a lot of old beliefs, not based on a lot of facts or research. Like we take a lot of traditions with us without realizing. And I
Mhm.
really wanted to try to understand, try to question, try to dig deeper, try to see, what are other beliefs out there? How do people actually raise children, or how do they do parenting, or how do they, build families? And I missed that, a place where you could do that. And I also missed a space for specifically Aurora that allowed, that first that have some of those concepts that are out there. We already discussed, there's different pedagogic techniques, and
Yes.
I was missing them in the nursing or kindergartens that I was visiting. And that maybe allowed flexibility, that you could be an entrepreneur, and that you could let's say have a space where you could come with your child, know that this is a inclusive space, maybe have some play groups that are, structured, and maybe I could have 2 hours for myself when she was in that play group where I could focus on my own work, or even more.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
some sort of, not, things shouldn't be so black and white. Either you submit your kid for a from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m., something that allowed a different type of approach. So that's what Little Humans is for. Though it will be a physical hub in Copenhagen. Right now, because of COVID, obviously it's not a physical hub. A series of conversations happening digitally. So just like the one you and I are having. But basically, I invite parents to join, and then I've been searching the whole wide world to find experts within different topics. Everything from bilingualism, multilingualism, and brain experts towards, um, how do you become conscious as a parent, or what do you do when you have to when your child is starting in kindergarten, and how do you make a good transition, and when it comes to psychology and all these things, or how can you be a vegetarian and make your food for your child that is good. So like lots, breastfeeding, any topic, you name it. I've been just searching for experts, and that's so we're going to have these conversations starting from January. And it's
I'm
like a
looking
one
forward to
hour.
follow. I'm really looking forward to follow. And
Me too.
actually,
I'm just excited about these topics myself. So that's the fun part about it.
please let us know so we can make announcement here. So let people to follow and listen you. And also what I noticed, because during when we were recording this interview, you are not at your office right now. Thank you very much for dedicating some time from your vacation time. You are in Malta.
I'm in Malta, but
And
I'm mainly based in Copenhagen, just so
yes,
you
you're
know.
based in Copenhagen. You speak Russian, Danish, and English perfectly. You are in Malta. From your vacation time, you dedicate some time. Even during this meeting, you received a call that you need to go back take care of your kid. So, but it is not end of life. For example, I could pause, and then we could continue, and then it is a little software trick that I am going to combine, and I will put it. So if it was all time, we will say, oh, you need to have a dedicated time, that one physical space that we need to have face to face. But when we have all these technological tools, I'm just reflecting upon what you said. Maybe we should utilize these tools to spend much more time with our loved ones. And I really don't want to steal more time of Aurora from you and from your family, your time from your family. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and I will be really glad to host you at Dr. Zero Show again. And thank you for today. And I wish you good
Thank
luck
you
with
for
Little Humans.
Thank you for inviting me once again, and good luck with the, yeah, with this project as well. I'm looking forward following that.
Hi, I hope you had a great time at Dr. Zero Show. If you are happy what you have watched and if you want other people to hear it, please follow me at Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Don't forget to follow Reportare and don't forget to follow Dr. Zero Show. If you have any suggestions, recommendations, please get in touch with me. I will be glad to communicate with you and listen what you suggest.